got all this knowledge. How do we practically and effectively apply that knowledge to have the outcome and to live a bigger, meaningful, purposeful life, right? So you had mentioned earlier going from competence to genius, right? So my first hack is kind of an avoid the achievement hamster wheel of just saying yes to you'll have to say yes to enough things to get some momentum, right? But at some point, you're going to just be achieving so many things and going through your list of things to do that it's going to burn you out.
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that will reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Today's episode is one that I'm particularly excited about because I get to speak with the fighter pilot, Dominic Teich. Dominic is a fighter pilot with over 16 years of experience in military aviation. From building model planes at age 7 to teaching students how to start a jet and employ it in a wartime scenario, Dom shares his journey of passion and perseverance that led him to become a fighter pilot. Join us as we explore the importance of having a supportive environment, pursuing your passions, and looking far ahead in life. Let us explore his journey and learn how Dom became a fighter pilot. Dom, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Junaid. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Absolutely, man. What I'd like to start with is, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, what inspired you to go down that path of becoming a fighter pilot. And I love what you said, when you're flying at 800 miles an hour, you've got to look so much far ahead. And when I was learning how to drive, my uncle would always tell me, look far, because you'll see where the road is turning and then you can, take action. So what got you started? Walk us through the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we talk about near rocks and far rocks, and it's you've got to have both, right? You have to know what's right off your nose. It's kind of the nearest alligator theory. You're in your boat and you've got to take out that nearest alligator that's going to kill you, but you also have to be looking downstream to make sure that you're not about to go off the edge of the waterfall. So I do like that analogy. It applies in with cars and motorcycles and dirt bikes and all that kind of stuff. So I started out I just loved aviation my whole life. You had mentioned that you had gotten kind of the bite to go into the computer industry. I got the itch to fly airplanes, and I was that quintessential kid that went to air shows and loved airplanes, and I just grew up. I grew up kind of out in the country, downhill skiing, just being a kid and having a great time. And my parents did a great job with our environment growing up and allowing us to, build forts and be outside. And I think that lent a lot to us just having some personal individualistic strength that I grew up in a large family, but my brothers being around me and just being out in the wilderness and just, being hardy boys, and learning that way. a couple of the little snippets that have gotten me to where I am now is, I've talked about this before, but at 7 years old on my birthday, my dad and I built a little F4 fighter jet model on the kitchen table. I
Mm-hmm.
still have it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And that I wanted to fly F4 fighter jets, and little did I know that they were pretty old at that point. And as I grew up, that they were phased out. But
Mm-hmm.
that started it. And then at 12 years old, my uncle, my dad's brother, took me to the Alaskan Airlines flight line out in Seattle, and he took me up onto the flight deck. He was a mechanic. He still is a
Yeah.
mechanic, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And he introduced me to the cockpit of a big civilian airline jet. And the maintainers up there were doing engine runs that day. So I got to feel the very visceral feelings that you get when you're around airplanes. You're on the tarmac, you see airplanes, you smell the jet fuel. So that really gave me a lot of I don't know, it just more or less reinvigorated my desire to do that.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
15, I had tested into and was pursuing aviation mechanic school, because I thought if I could be an aviation mechanic that maybe I would meet some pilots and I could fly. And at 16 years old, my whole family, we moved to Tucson, Arizona. So it kind of upended my plans to do that. And I started over again and reapplied to another aviation mechanic school. And during that time, a counselor gave me a little packet that introduced me to the flight school. And long story short, I ended up starting flight school and decided to not go the aviation mechanic route because I just wanted to fly. So at 16, I started flying. At 18, I hustled pretty good. I was pretty determined to do that. And by 18, I was a civilian flight instructor, and I was teaching people how to fly at that point in the civilian sector for a number of years, and building time and trying to figure out, hey, do I want to go to the military? Do I want to go to the civilian sector? And I applied to both and got selected to both and figured I would take the military route. And then, I went through all the military training and competition, all the stuff that goes along with that. And I've been flying fighter jets I've been in the military for about 16 years now, and just loving it. And I'm now teaching at the schoolhouse for F-16. So I get to teach students how to start the jet and taxi it and take off, and then also how to employ it in a wartime scenario.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. I love all of that because the F4, the F-16, getting to fly civilian planes and teaching people at such a young age, it really goes to show that when you really put your mind to it and then have the support, right? You have the support from your parents, you have the support from your uncle, you have support from all these people. There's no wonder that, you are doing what you're doing. Now, let me ask you this. You said you're in the military. Did you come anywhere close to, was it the Air Force or did you go to the Navy route?
Yeah, so I actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I had tried a couple of different routes. The third year in college, I applied and got selected to go into the Navy, but then my car didn't start that morning, and I missed the interview and the whole thing that went along with that. And it was actually a blessing in disguise, because fast forward, I applied to a guard unit, and that morning I freaking fell out of my bed. My car didn't start, and I was just like, man, this has got to be a sign. So then I reapplied 3 times. Actually, it took me a year and a half because the recruiter, they lost my paperwork, but I was determined to give it another shot and to not. Fate is such a terrible author, right?
Yes.
I don't believe in fate. I believe in writing your own story and action. Yes, there are things that happen along the way, but write your own story and take action to fulfill that story. And so I just kept trying and kept going after it. And you had mentioned there's a lot of people in your life that will influence you, and you and I have most likely influenced people that we'll never know about, right? Because a lot of times that influence, either they'll lose touch with you or you won't know. But you're always influencing people in hopefully positive ways. And then there are a lot of people, and we can talk about this, there are a lot of people that will influence you in negative ways, and that will prevent you from getting to your dreams. But those influencing pieces, whether it was my dad, my uncle, my parents setting an environment, I remember one of my defining days in college was I was taking some sort of aviation related class, and the professor was a retired A-10 fighter pilot. And I was just this little punk kid, and I was flying airplanes, and I wanted to do what he wanted, or what he had already done.
Yeah.
And I walked up to him, and I was just like, "Hey, Mr. Harley Davidson." His call sign was Harley, and his last name was Davidson. So I was like, "Mr. Harley, and I'm kind of getting all skittish, and
Yeah.
I want to fly fighter jets, and I'm flying civilian airplanes, and I don't know if I can do it, and blah blah blah." And I'm just giving him this victim mentality, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Hell, kid, I did it. Why don't you do it?" And he's like, "You're well on your way." And he goes, your dad doesn't have to be a fighter pilot. You don't have to know senators and statesmen, all that stuff." And he just he was that coach. You and I had talked about this, about how you can have a mindset, because I'm big into mindset, but then having a coach or a guide or somebody that influences you or kind of gives you that, hey, take this path, guidance along the way is important. But then you have to take action. That's the big thing.
Yes.
You had mentioned, they can open the door for you, like, hey, here's 50 doors. This is the one you need to run through. But then you have to take the action and run through it. And that's the scary part sometimes, because you don't know if what's on the other side of that wall.
Man, that's so true. And we are our own gatekeepers when it comes to that. We are always telling ourselves, wait, I can't do that. I've never done it. But then when other people are influencing, and not just influencing, they're inspiring us by believing in us, I think that's where the rubber meets the tarmac, where you're like, all right, I can really do it. And then of course it takes work. It takes the attitude of actually going and pushing that button.
Yep. And I've found, and this analogy, I've actually never heard this before, but I'm sure somebody's said it before, but I feel like every door that I ran through led to multiple more doors. And the thing that I've noticed throughout my life is that every new door that I run through, I'm introduced to all these new doors. And it got to a point where I fell apart about 5 years ago. And from the outside, and a lot of people need to know this, from the outside, it looked like I had everything together. It looked like I was successful. At that point, I had operated 2 businesses. I turned one off and kept another one that was profitable. And I was being a fighter pilot and all that stuff, but I fell apart mentally. And what I had been doing was just layering my life so thick with everything. I was just saying yes to every new door that opened. And at some point, you don't have enough time to do everything, right? So
correct.
After I fell apart, and that was probably one of the worst and best things that ever happened to me. And I picked myself back up, and I went through all the steps that are behind that. And after I picked myself up, I was like, well, what do I do now to prevent that from happening again? It's kind of like just layering. You go to a barbecue and you're just layering your plate with all of this delicious food, right? But then at some point it's going to start falling off, and then eventually your plate falls apart, and now it's all like just this big heaping pile of mess. So I think the important thing that I learned from that breakdown, or the failure, or whatever you want to call it, is that I didn't fail as a person. That was an event that failed. Right. And I kind of just turned around. It's one of my hacks, or whatever you want to call it, later on, that we can discuss. But as a little teaser to the end of what did I learn from that, and what did I take out of it?
Man, I absolutely love that. Yes, we can say yes to so many things, but there's only so much butter you can. I like the butter and bread analogy. At the end of the spread, you're gonna run out of butter. You got to go back, and then that's basically going back the next day. And the more you talked about that, the more I keep thinking in my mind is, how many things that I am into right now, and how many things I need to shut down, kind of, to really refocus and be intentional in what I'm doing. And it's really interesting when we look at that from the perspective that really makes sense. Okay, which of all of these activities is going to bring me closer to the island that I want to get to the goal that I want to get to?
Yeah.
Somebody gave me an example of, let's say you're in the middle of the island and you need to get to the other, to the main island, and it's basically you're stuck in a hole or a circle. But then there's a lot of islands all around. You could hop to any of them, but only a specific number of hops will get you to that main island. Will get to the gold. So we really have to be intentional and purposeful on the many things that we do take into. But it's not to say that saying yes to those things is a bad thing, because we as a person also grow in so many ways that would not have been possible if you didn't say the yes.
Yep. Yep. I couldn't agree with you more. And there are a lot of things that will help you get to your goal.
Mm-hmm.
And out of those 100 things, a lot of times you can pick one. And that's the tough part. It's something that I've learned even as I would say a struggling author, right? So now I've written a couple of books, I've co-authored other books.
Nice.
And just like any storyline, just like any movie, you have so much content. You have 400,000 hours of content, and you need to distill it down into an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So the movie, the plot and the characters and all that stuff, it's more about how effective you are at trimming out the fat, if you will, and taking those golden nuggets and running with them. So, a simple thing, because we all make decisions on a feeling based, right? Even men that say, no, I'm very logical. We start with feeling. So, where mine started was, what I started doing was I started going to bed early because I could control that time. I could get in bed and get sleep, and then I could wake up early and I could control that. And that's where I got a lot of my, our Buckminster Fuller talks about accelerated acceleration, right? In technology and life in this world that we live in. And that's where I got a lot of my accelerated acceleration in life, was waking up early. And I would knock out 3 or 4 hours of work in the morning before I went into my full-time job. And 3 to 4 hours of work, 5 days a week, and taking the weekends off, you add that up over the year. And 10 years into it, you've got something that's fairly tangible and kind of out of control now as it starts to grow. And so you look at that, and just in the morning, I remember it's so frustrating because I'm such an action taker that I need to sit still. So I had to force myself to sit in silence. I know you just you kind of took a breath yourself, because you're like, I just want to do stuff. Right? Yeah. And people are like, well, what are you doing? I was like, I'm doing all this stuff. And it's so fun to talk about, but it will wear you out because you don't know. You've run down all these paths. You've gone through all these doors, and now you're in your own maze, and it's fun, but now you're confused and you get lost, and then you have your breakdown. So in the morning, I remember setting out, and I was like, I'm going to sit still for 15 minutes and, meditate or pray or just, be in silence, because it's super helpful. And Junaid, I lasted about 37 seconds. And I was like, I gotta start doing something. So I was like, okay, let me set a goal that I know I can do that will be tough for me, which was 5 minutes. And that is one of the biggest things that has helped me. And I find if I don't do that in the morning, every morning, within about a week, I'm kind of a little bit lost in my own maze, my own exciting maze of life.
Yeah.
And so that is a very actionable thing that you can do. You can go to bed early, you can wake up early, and then 5 minutes. If you don't have 5 minutes a day to just sit still in a quiet place by yourself with your eyes closed or whatever, and if you're like me and you want to start interacting with a lot of the stuff going on in your mind, just put a pen and paper next to you and write that stuff down. Get it out of your mind, put it on pen and paper, and then go back to being silent, sitting still. And, there's a bunch of other things that you can do in there. And I alluded to them, meditation, prayer, whatever you want to do there in the spiritual realm, which is super important. But that is something that that gave me so much clarity over time. Because if you do that once a day, after 30 days, a lot of the things that you thought were maybe troubling or causing you issues, they just
Mm-hmm.
go away because you have your
Yeah,
intentions set at the beginning of the day.
man, I like that a lot because like I took that long breath, I have trouble, calming down and not doing anything. So what I'll do is I'll go do different projects. So for example, I've got
Yeah.
10 projects going. I've got a workshop. I've got like 20 Lego models that I want to build. Like there's a lot of things that are waiting to be done. I recently got this Iron Man set. It's not just a set, but they're basically shipping me one box every month, and I don't know how many total boxes it is, but you end up with Mark III or Mark II, Iron Man model, all hand
Wow.
built. So
Wow.
I haven't started yet because I'm like, wait, I'm gonna wait for all the boxes and then I'm gonna do it all at once. But I should
Yeah.
probably start with just the one box. And um, but what that enables me to do the mundane work is that it lets my mind, because I'm not diagnosed ADHD, but I believe that there's some level of hyper engagement because I'm like a kid in a candy shop when I come to my studio, when I go to my workshop, because like, wait, I can work on this, I can work on this, I can work on this.
Yeah.
But I like that idea of just sitting down, closing your eyes, and just let the mind do the work, and you can say, okay, this is going to get me to a good result, and make me feel that, okay, I have accomplished something, as
Yeah.
opposed to, and another day is gone and I wasn't able to do all the things that I was in my mind. Well,
Yeah.
start with one thing and you probably will get there.
Yeah. You mentioned feel, Junaid, which I think is the most important word. And guys
Mm-hmm.
don't like that word. I don't really like that word because I don't like the touchy feely stuff, right? Because
Sure.
I'm a man and I'm a fighter pilot. But the feeling at the end of the day is just that. It's was I productive? Did I get something done? Did I move the plan a little bit closer to the end goal? And being very specific and
Mm-hmm.
intentional, right? And I think it was Oprah. I don't watch any of her shows or anything, but I was reading a
Sure.
book and somebody did like a little rundown on what Oprah had come through, and she had done all of these workshops and all this kind of stuff. And there was one word, and it was intentionality. So, what is your intention today? I ask my kids as
Yeah.
I'm like driving them to school, I'm like, what's your intention today? And they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, what at the end of the day, if you could say this one thing happened today and that
Mm-hmm.
made today a success or whatever, and maybe that is doing like clearing your schedule and just relaxing and
Yeah.
having some things lined up, right? And so that feeling um, can be exacerbated in the wrong direction in my case. So if you're like you and me, I guess, and you want to get stuff done, well, what
Mm-hmm.
are you going to do? You're going to create a list. The
Yeah.
problem is that you will always have a list. And so where I kind of tackled that issue is that I got very, very selective with my calendar. And there's so many
Mm-hmm.
different apps. You could throw it into an Excel spreadsheet or
Of
whatever,
course. Yeah.
but just open up your calendar in the day and look at it and look at your day in your 5 minutes in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at your day and go, do I need to do that?
Yeah.
And just punt it to the right. And if you punt it to the right 3 to 5 times, then start asking yourself, do I ever need to do that?
Yeah.
Right. And so like that for me has given me a lot of clarity. And people think I'm a little bit crazy, but my friend came over and he's like, well, are you, because they know that I'm like co-authoring books and we're getting ready to
Mm-hmm.
publish another volume of single seat wisdom here
Yeah.
on Veterans Day in 2022, and
Nice.
I've got websites and businesses and real estate and all this stuff going on. And I'm a fighter pilot. And they're like, well, how do you? And I said, I blocked the whole afternoon off to, this sounds bad, to not do anything
Yeah.
in that world, but to do all of this so that I'm hyper focused on you as friends so we can actually have good conversations and hang out. But
Yeah.
it's not that I'm not doing anything. It's this, I'm intentionally doing this outside of work, outside, because
Yeah.
I want to relax. I have to force and schedule myself to relax, which
No.
sounds so weird, but as you get busier, you have to do that.
You're so right. I was up at 2 a.m. today, And I was like, I
That was
need to
earlier
get
than
some
me.
work done, right? It's, I mean, I was like, I need to get up early so I can catch up on some of the work stuff because I still have a full-time job. And I was like, I'm gonna finish all of this. And then I was messaging my coach. I was like, hey, sorry, we're gonna have to, move our meeting because I double booked myself. And I'm in like at least 5 different masterminds right now, meeting every week. And I'm growing exponentially in the past year and a half because I've been in these groups. But now is a point that I need to cut down the outside noise and really put out everything that's inside of me, because it's starting to clog up. It's
Yeah.
starting to make me feel like more stress. Okay, I got to meet that. I got to meet there. I got to go here. So
Yep.
I was telling him, I need to update my calendar. I need to make sure that I am focusing on this guy over here so that I can provide better for the people that are around me.
Yep. That's it's funny you mention that, because I think as soon as you start to find some meaning and purpose in your life, and you've run through enough doors to know which doors not to run through, right? So now you've narrowed them down, and then you start to see these other opportunities in your life start to come to fruition, and then you start double booking yourself. And then in my case, I triple booked myself one week
Of
for
course.
just I was supposed to go monitor and like walk through a construction site because we had a roof off of one of our buildings, and then I was supposed to meet this person, and then I had scheduled the worst part of it. The most important part was that I had scheduled like a lunch or something with my wife, and so I just totally dropped the ball. And that's where I think you can either choose to grow from it and go, what's the lesson behind this? Or you can run away from it. You can run away from the pain. And you've already taken the actions, you've already started, and you start to get this momentum, right? In your life, in your day, and it starts to kind of take off. And now you're kind of like running, and then you're at a full on sprint, and then you can't keep up. And it's almost just like somebody sitting there on the treadmill, and they're just slowly but incrementally increasing the speed. And you now start to get fatigued, and you can't touch any of the buttons, right? But the dude's just standing there. He's just going, okay, 1/10 of a mile an hour faster, 1/10 of a mile an hour faster, until you just fall, right? And you can envision your face hitting like the place where your feet, and you just plow into the wall behind you, right? And you can either go, that sucked, I'm never doing it again, or you can go, well, what the heck? Give me the controls to that. I didn't want to control this, right?
Yes.
And so you've already experienced that. So I think the lesson that I took from that is, as I started to double book myself, I just stepped back and went, what do I need to cut out? What am I doing that I need to cut out of my life? And in my case, it was, I don't need to be my own accountant. I can do accounting, but there's people that are much better and efficient. I don't need to do property management. I don't need to do interior book design. I don't need to do cover, like all of these little things that are fun, but you have to go, well, where are we going with this? Well, I want to get this book published. And so what team can I set up? And that is another thing, kind of a hack, right? Is what have you cut out? And then what team do you have behind you to help you with that stuff?
Yeah, man, I love that example so much, because I ran into the same problem. I was editing my own episodes. I was working, spending 3+ hours on episodes, and then I have like 40 episodes waiting to be edited. And I was like, this is not working out. I was spending so much time. I got myself fired from this job, and I was like, okay, this is never happening again. And then I ended up hiring a whole, editor. Now I have a whole team. I just show up on the episode because I was like, where do I find the most joy? Where can I bring the most value, right? Where's my expertise lie? I don't want to be living in the zone of incompetence or zone of competence. I want to be in the zone of genius. And then I decided, okay, I need to totally build a team around so that they can support me and I can support them in growing. It's when you were talking about, you're running on that treadmill, or you can either run from your problems But from a fighter jet analogy, you only have so much flare.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Eventually that missile is going to hit you because you ran out of flare. You gotta either eject or
Yeah.
it's like I want to use that analogy, but yeah, man, totally awesome. So much joy just talking to you, man. I'm looking at your site, the single seat mindset. He's got an amazing community going on here. I love the insider circle idea, and all these images of your team that's working together with you. Let's take a quick break, and when we get back, Dom's going to share with us 3 hacks to help you be a better human being, entrepreneur, whatever it is that you're looking to achieve. So we'll be right back. I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that'll reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Hey guys, welcome back. We've been speaking with Dom Slice. I still haven't asked him how Teich. Dom Slice Teich. Dom Slice Teich. No, Slice is his call sign. When you're a fighter pilot like Top Gun Maverick, we call Mr. Maverick and Goose and whatnot. So Slice is Dom here because he slices through air like I don't even know. Just making this up. But Dom, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Fighter pilots and flying airplanes has been a dream of mine, and I have played hours and hours of video game with I've got a full-on joystick and everything up here. In fact, I even backed a project that's a motion simulator.
Okay.
And where you basically sit in the middle of it, you got your joystick, you got your rudder control, and you put on these
virtual reality
glasses. And this whole thing rotates 360 degrees, like 10 degrees either way, and basically gives you that G-force that you feel in an airplane.
Yeah.
Friggin' excited to see when that thing arrives at the house. But you've got 3 hacks to share with us, and I know these are going to be really amazing and actionable.
Yep. So the first one is, you had mentioned we've got all this information, right? We've got all this knowledge. How do we practically and effectively apply that knowledge to have the outcome and to live a bigger, meaningful, purposeful life, right? So you had mentioned earlier going from competence to genius, right? So my first hack is kind of an avoid the achievement hamster wheel of just saying yes to you'll have to say yes to enough things to get some momentum, right? But at some point, you're going to just be achieving so many things and going through your list of things to do that it's going to burn you out. And in my case, I flamed out. I ran out of gas, crashed, and I went, okay, what can I learn from that? So the first one is take action, right? And you may overdo it, which is totally fine. You may double book, triple book yourself in my case, and it will be painful. But then you know that you've been taking enough action and you're going to start to see other doors. And then you're going to start to generate some competence in what you are doing, which will lead you to the genius that you had talked about before. So how do I avoid the achievement hamster wheel? If you like to drink or binge watch Netflix or any of that kind of stuff, you can literally just stop staying up late and eating candy bars and doing all that stuff and just go to bed early, right?
Yeah.
Go to bed early. go to bed 5 minutes early and wake up 5 minutes earlier. All right. So make it very easy to do. And then that extra 5 minutes you do in the morning, sit still for 5 minutes and just sit there and go, what is my intention today? Where is life going? If you're a spiritual person, maybe God will talk to you. You can write your plan out, and you can have some intention that day that could be as simple as, I'm going to smile at 3 people and open the door for somebody, or what have you, right? But just have an intention throughout your day. So that's how I would avoid the achievement hamster wheel of just endless lists of stuff to do. And at the end of the day, you're so burnt out and you're going, what did I actually, am I actually moving forward to that goal? And sitting still for 5 minutes in the morning will help you just go, okay, where am I going with my plan? And then you can start mapping that out. Cool. Second one is you had alluded to it, but behind every professional basketball player, fighter pilot, what have you, there is a coach or a guide, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that can be packaged into a team. So if you have a business, you'll need a team to help you run that business. If you're in sports, you'll have a coach. What we do with Single Seat Mindset is we're the guide, right? So people will have action takers. So if you're lazy and you have a victim mindset and you just want to sit on the couch and have the government send you paychecks, you are not going to like what we have at Single Seat Mindset. But if you're an action taker, then the first thing is you have that mindset to do stuff. The second piece of that is that you need to surround yourself with either a team or a coach or a guide. And if you don't know who those people are, start taking action and they will notice you and they will start to help you. And then the third piece of that is action. So mindset, coach, and then action in that order, or a combination of that order. Just do all of it at once in my case, and you'll start to build the team around you that you can start to control. So that's kind of the piece of this is, well, how do I do it? We have to start. You can read all the books, you can listen to podcasts, YouTube, what have you, but action, you have to start taking action. And then that is how you learn. We learn primarily by taking action. So kids will go to college, they'll graduate from college, they've got all this knowledge, but they don't know how to practically apply it. And the way that you practically apply that, I know 0 fighter pilots that have gotten into a fighter jet for the first time, started it up, and just nailed it. 0. It doesn't happen. We learn through repetition, failure, and action. So start that little piece, start taking action. If you spend 5 minutes each morning to visualize where you're going and you start taking action, you'll start to figure it out. You'll zigzag to the finish line. It won't be a straight line, but that's how you learn. And the second one is very prevalent in the fighter pilot community, specifically American fighter pilots, which is plan, execute, and debrief. Debrief being one of the most important pieces of that. So planning, have a plan. You can do that in the first 5 minutes of your day to visualize the end goal, right? Go execute your plan, have an intention with your day, and then at the end of the day, do a little mini debrief with yourself. All right. The debrief is going to be where you learn your lessons. So if you failed, it's an event. It's not you. That event failed. Look at how it failed. Is there something you can learn from it? Is it your fault? Is it somebody else's fault? Is it a combination, thereof? But that debriefing piece is going to be the most important piece to learning, right? Because you've now taken action. Yeah. Maybe you failed. Maybe you learned. Maybe you succeeded. And the times that you succeed, you will almost resist debriefing yourself because you're like, it was a success. But if you don't debrief yourself, you don't know if it was luck, timing, or some other factor, right, that was outside of your control. All right. And that's happened to me before, where it was just like, that was a success. I won. I made a lot of money. I did whatever. I graduated from F-16 school. And it was like, was that luck or did I have a plan? And then I debriefed myself on, oh, holy crap, I could have done a lot of things better. Yeah. So those are my things there, is to avoid the achievement hamster wheel, spend 5 minutes each morning visualizing where are your goals and where you're going with your life. The second thing is surround yourself with, a few people, maybe 3, no more than 5 really trusted people. You call it a mastermind. Those are very important to just help you along with your goals. Yeah. And then as you're taking action, make sure that you plan, execute, and debrief, specifically debrief your path so that you can pull out those lessons learned. Yeah. And then the next time, and that's how people refine their processes. They go, oh, I learned that. I just need to tweak this little thing in my process. And now that pain point is gone. And now you succeed a lot more and you start another business or you take on another venture, and now all these other doors start opening up for you.
Absolutely, man. Those were amazing. I love them. Cannot wait to implement these actions. I love the plan, execute, debrief, because you gotta know what worked and what didn't work. And so thank you for sharing the 3 hacks. Let's jump quickly right into the 6 questions I like to ask. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
That I wish I got into. What did I write to you? So here's the thing, Junaid,
Yeah.
is it is almost probably like a hobby that I should not have got into, because I just like to do everything.
Right.
And I would say the hobby that I kind of, at times wish maybe that I didn't get into is single seat mindset, because it was kind of a hobby helping and guiding people, and it became a lot of work.
Yeah.
But then what I noticed as I started, as things started to grow and get better, it gave me a lot of purpose to my day. And I just took the first initial actions, right? And it was kind of a hobby. And then I realized I either have to grow and scale this and stop being a hobbyist and make it a business. So I would say single seat mindset was a hobby initially that I wish I didn't get into, but then it was kind of a blessing in disguise now, because Single Seat Mindset, that company, we give all of the money away to a children's cancer nonprofit. So it's very purposeful. It is about money and making money, but not for us.
Right.
And just, sharing our lessons learned for the next generation, learning from, the current generation to make people better.
I love that, man. That's really cool. And in your questionnaire, you had said that you wish you got into professional backcountry powder skiing.
And that is true. You've touched on another lifelong love of mine, is just being out in the middle of nowhere on the edge of death with a backpack and a beacon, and just dropping in on some fresh powder, and just hoping that you can make it to the bottom that day.
I love it. Next up, what did you want to be when you were a child?
A pilot.
And did it.
That one's easy. What is your favorite movie or TV show? So I would have to say the series that I think has just such a every time I watch it, and this is a little bit nerdy, is the Lord of the Rings series. It's just it's such a cool story. It just really hits all of the different adventurous pieces of life, and just the danger. Like the whole thing is like, it is life as I like to live it, which is kind of uncertain. Every day you wake up and there's maybe a ring wraith, to say a really nerdy term for those that haven't seen it, is right around the corner, right? He's going to fly over you and get you. So I do really enjoy watching the Lord of the Rings. It's fun to watch with my kids too.
Nice. I love that. I was going to say something, but I forgot. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
An easy one would be Top Gun, because I'm actually a fighter pilot.
Yeah. Nice. I love it. Who's your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? Kind of a superhero, because I think he's the only one that's done this, is Jesus. He died and then rose himself from the dead. And I, as far as I know, the history books, he's the only one that's done that. So I'll say that Jesus is my favorite superhero.
Awesome. I love it. Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
So there's a board game that I play with my kids, and this I get $0 for saying this, but it's called, I think, the Cash Flow. It's a Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki built a board game that is, it's not a family game. It's a learning tool, but just to learn, what credit card debt is and all that stuff. And is it called Cash Flow?
It's called Cash Flow.
Yeah, it's
I
called
have
Cash
it sitting
Flow.
back here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I sit down and play cash flow with my kids, just to kind of teach them. They have their little investments, and they're pretty young, so they're learning about how to reinvest and how
Nice.
to give to charity. I've told them, like, if you can't give $10 out of every $100 that you make,
Yeah,
what makes you believe that you're going to give $100,000 when you make $1 million? And so
exactly.
cash flow kind of helps. And I was actually, last night I was playing Monopoly, the kids version of Monopoly, and you win that game by how much dollars you have at the end, which is the wrong message. So I
Yeah.
think I'm going to throw that game away. And because property
Yeah.
and wealth is not made through currency that can be devalued by the Federal Reserve overnight. It's made through actual tangible property, not something
Yeah.
that's printed by the government.
Amen. And it's not even the government that's printing the money. Just
Yeah.
so
Yes.
people know.
Yeah. That's a whole other tangent.
That's a whole nother tangent.
Yeah.
All right.
Read the Jekyll, or the Creature from Jekyll Island, as a primer.
Will do. All right, man. This was a ton of fun. Where can the superpreneurs listening to this episode find you?
Yep. So singleseatmindset.com is our launch pad. We've got everything there, the books. You can contact me. We've got some free programs. All our content is there.
Nice.
We pride ourselves, or not, maybe pride's a bad word. We are very diligent about keeping all of our information in very short, actionable, and impactful steps. So you're not going to get blasted by emails every single day with just these laundry lists of things to do. No, it's, hey, this is the thing that we're working on, and here's the action that you can take for that. So singleseatmindset.com.
I love it. Thank you so much again, Dom/Teich. It was a ton of fun talking with you. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, Junaid.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening to our guest on this episode. Please send me an email at junaid@hacksandhobbies.com to tell me what you loved about our guest today. You could find links mentioned in this episode on the hacksandhobbies.com website.